You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Samia Sayed. Welcome to the show. Coming up, we have an interview with Sister Fauzia Baig, Waterloo Region's first Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. But first, let's go over the headlines. Russia bans hundreds of Canadian MPs in latest retaliation. Experts warn that Canadian weapons could fall into the wrong hands. 70% of polled Quebec university students want to leave province because of Bill 21. Human rights on agenda for UK Prime Minister meeting with Saudi Arabia. And now the details. A long list of Canadian politicians and leaders of Ukrainian Canadian groups have been added to Russia's blacklist and banned from entering the country. This includes Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, and Defense Minister Anita Anand. The ban is Russia's retaliation for the sanctions Canada and other Western countries have imposed on Russian President Vladimir Putin and his political allies. In a historic address to the Canadian Parliament yesterday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Canada for its contributions and urged leaders to create a no-fly zone above Ukraine. Canadian weapons sent to Ukraine could end up in the hands of Russian forces, local paramilitary groups, or the black market, warn experts. Canada has offered thousands of dollars worth of arms to Ukraine, including rockets, guns, and ammunition. Constanze Musu, a University of Ottawa professor who specializes in international security, told local media sources that in the past, weapons sent by the West to Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and Libya have been lost or misused. As of now, it is not clear if Russia has captured any Canadian weapons. A new study has found that almost 70% of respondents who wear religious attire in Quebec feel discouraged and would leave the province to find work elsewhere because of Bill 21. 629 English and French-speaking university students who did or did not wear religious symbols were surveyed. They were asked about their feelings for Quebec's law that banned public sector workers from wearing religious garb. Many respondents noticed the increase in racism in public areas. They said that hijab-wearing women were singled out in classrooms. Even those not in hijab reported increased discrimination. The United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson is facing pressure to discuss Saudi Arabia's human rights records during meetings with their leaders. Johnson is looking for a way to reduce the UK's dependence on Russia for energy, but said he will continue to raise human rights issues. Labour Party leader Sir Keir Starmer said that shifting from dictator to dictator is not an energy strategy, local media reported. The concern comes days after Saudi Arabia executed 81 men. And although he denies the charge, a UN investigation has connected Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. That's it for the news. And now with us, we have Sister Fauzia Baig, a director on the board for the Coalition of Muslim Women of KW, and the new director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the region of Waterloo. Welcome, Sister Fauzia. It's great to have you here with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
So, Sister Fauzia, you were recently hired as Waterloo Region's first Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. What changes do you hope to bring with this new position?
So I've been at the region for over a decade, and I'm most excited about the road ahead. I really feel that the commitment to systemic change is real, and I feel really fortunate to be part of leading this journey. And working on a plan, I think with the team going forward, to really figure out what would be the best way to lead the portfolio of equity, diversity, and inclusion at the region. I think that this work needs to be very intentional and thoughtful, and really to address systemic barriers. It really starts by first acknowledging that these things are happening and exist, and giving voice to the issues that many in the community face. And taking meaningful action. So I think a lot of the initial work will be figuring a lot of those pieces out.
Mm-hmm. And you say while working for 10 years, you noticed that there were some systemic barriers that you want to change. What are you referring to?
We often hear that, as systems, we could do better jobs with matching the way that we offer programs and services to communities so that they are in fact accessible and meaningful to different community groups, as well as having people that offer programs and services reflect the diversity that it serves. So those are some of the things that definitely will need some more intentional work and commitment going forward.
Mhm. And what brought on this change now? Why did Waterloo Region decide to have a new director for equity, diversity, and inclusion at this time?
I think that there's definitely an acknowledgement, even stronger than ever in the past, that systems, including the region and other organizations and institutions, can't simply continue to do things the way that they've always done. And so that acknowledgement has led to many thinking about what are the ways in which we can do things differently. And you'll see that there's a lot more of these equity teams popping up around in different organizations. And I think for the region's been on a journey towards social justice for many years. And I think this is a really positive step in that journey and really confirming the commitment to do this work right.
Mhm. Now, I know you were only recently appointed, but what are some of these programs that you are looking to implement? I mean, they are themed around equity, diversity, and inclusion, but what does it look like specifically?
So, not to go into too many specifics about Waterloo Region, but we've been doing a lot of consulting and engagement with community around this concept of community safety and well-being. And through a lot of those conversations, we're really hearing that there needs to be more community-driven models for community decision-making that the region would need to support. And so a lot of the work that I hope to do in the coming months and likely in the coming years is helping to develop some of these community governance models and structures that can support more work happening that's community driven and community focused with organizations and systems like the region supporting that work.
Mhm. And how supportive are the local Muslim community?
I've been in Waterloo for almost 20 years, and I found the local community to be really supportive. I've really enjoyed all of the connections that I've made, amongst my Muslim brothers and sisters, as well as, the other friends and partnerships that I've made along here. So I would say that we've got a really great local community that is supportive of change and doing things the right way. And, really putting the values, Muslim values, centered in that as well.
Mhm. Now, you are also a director with the National Coalition of Muslim Women in Kitchener. Can you tell us about some of your work?
Yeah, so the Coalition for Muslim Women KW is, it's been around for, I think, just over 10 years. And I started there as a member, and I've been a board member. This is actually my last term. But I've been very fortunate to be working alongside other very passionate, strong, and dedicated Muslim women on issues that are relevant to Muslim women and actually to the broader community as well. And so a lot of those things relate to, bridge building, relationship building, raising awareness of the value and contributions that Muslim women can make. And some of the things that I really focused on is, campaigns that build that social capital, that help build those bridges and that help bring leadership training and opportunities to Muslim women doing this work.
Mhm. It was International Women's Day earlier a few days ago, and I would like you to reflect on your experience as a Muslim woman that aids in community grassroots efforts. What did it look like?
So I reflect on this lightly and deeply, and I think about like, if I'm being honest, that there's definitely truth to being treated differently based on the way you look. And I, myself have really felt the weight and responsibility of my hijab, but also the strength that it brings me. And International Women's Day is an opportunity for me anyways, to reflect on the strength of that and how other women in the community have done so much courageous work in everyday ways. So as mothers, sisters, aunts, wives, and as community leaders. And when I think about that, I can't help but think about my mother and the sacrifices that she made in the obstacles she faced as being a new immigrant, a Muslim woman, new immigrant in Canada, and all of those experiences she faced. But she stayed true to her values, and she stayed committed to always trying to do what's right and doing what's good for other people. So really centering on how do we continue to build community and relationships, and how do we continue to do things for others more than we would do for ourselves. And so I think about all those teachings and all the teachings of all the mothers and moms and sisters that sometimes don't get as much attention, but really have an influence on many of us and the choices we make.
Mm-hmm. And now you touched upon this just a little bit, but I'd like to ask you a little bit more. You said that there was some pushback for you being a woman and a hijab wearing one at that. Can you share with us something that happened to you specifically?
I think, often we do this all the time, right? We judge people by the way that they appear. We make assumptions. We fall into the trap of listening to dominant narratives or what's easily accessible to us in terms of information about how we understand the world. And I think being a Muslim woman, a hijab, visible Muslim women, often, there was a strong narrative for a long time that, there's a weakness attached to it, or there's not strength to it attached to it, or there's not passion and energy attached to it. And that, I needed helping or saving or some of those things that you hear. And I think that, for me, it's been about helping people understand that, I wear my hijab with strength, and I draw strength from it. And it's a way that I, practice what's important to me and my connection to my, to my creator. And that it's not a point of weakness for me. It's actually a way that I express my my strengths and express my the way in which I see the world. It really does influence and help me remember and ground me in the decisions that I make, and think about, what are the real values that I want to live by and stand by. And I think for me, it's a great reminder of that.
Mm-hmm. And now for a final question, I'd like to ask you, you have so much experience in grassroots efforts or even working with the region itself. What is one message or an advice that you would give to yourself if you could look back?
I would tell myself that it's okay to not always have all the answers, and it's okay to not feel like you can take it all on, because this work can't be done alone. Grassroots organization work, community development, advocacy, work within a system, all of this needs to happen, collaboratively and in partnership. And often I think we think, oh, I need to do this alone, or this is my responsibility. And I think I would tell myself that take reassurance in others, and take reassurance in the connections and relationships you have, and really lean on those relationships and trust them and invest in them. And I think at the end of the day, it's these relationships and these interactions that we build with others, on human levels, that really help continue us on the right path in terms of making the right decisions towards like social justice. And I think that's what I would remind myself of, is that I don't need to do it alone. And there are many people who are doing this work too, that, together the impact of that is so much greater.
And I hate to jump in, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Sister Fauzia, for joining us and telling us about your experience. It was great talking to you. You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. That's it from our Toronto studios tonight. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more Canadian Muslim content. Stay safe, and until next time.